Hi everyone, welcome to my beginner's tutorial for computer assembly video. These are some basic tips to help get you started. They're mainly things not to do. A big thing you want to be careful of is static electricity. Static electricity can fry parts in your computer if you have any on your hands, so you want to make sure you discharge that. The easiest way to do that is to touch the case of your computer, which is usually metal. What I'm doing right here is installing my DVD drive. As you just saw, I moved that tab over and that holds it into place. Now I'm installing the front panel of my computer, which the bottom part of it slides into the computer, and as you can see, those tabs right there click over the side to hold it into place. The third thing I'm installing is my hard drive, which is in a cage, and as you see right here, I just clicked into place on the computer case itself, and now I'm screwing it in. It's held in by two screws. Generally, every computer will have a different way of holding the hard drive, the different cases. Everything in a case is usually laid out differently from another case, so nothing's ever going to be exactly the same. The hard drive is where all the information on your computer is stored, so it's a very important part of your computer. The next thing that I'm installing is my power supply, which you see right here. You install that by clicking it in place and then screwing it into place. There's 4 screws for this power supply on mine. Sometimes power supplies can also be at the bottom, although it's the most usual thing is for them to be at the top, as you see in the video. The cords, if you can see, are bundled up, and that's to make it neater, improve airflow through your case, and keep it so you can see more, move some more stuff around. But that's something you do after you have your computer assembled and you know which power cables you're going to need. Mine are like that now so that everybody can see in my case without little wires sticking out everywhere. The power supply is another really important part of your computer, and it's pretty self-explanatory what it does. It provides power to all your cards, your motherboard, your DVD drive, your hard drive, to everything. And this piece right here is your motherboard. You see me sliding the back end into place first and then dropping the front end down. Make sure all your wires are out of the way, and then lower it down. There are holes cut in the back of your computer case, and there are pieces on your motherboard. You want to line up those holes and the pieces and slide it back, and then all your screw holes should line up, and you just screw it in. I've been fast forwarding through here because there are, I think, 10 screws, and it took me a couple minutes to get them all screwed in. You want to use a long-handled screwdriver usually. If you can find one with a weak magnetic tip, that would help, because sometimes it's hard to pick the screws up of some of the places they'll fall on your motherboard if they fall off of your screwdriver. So this helps. The motherboard has all of your circuits on it, has your card slots for things such as your video card, your network cards, and everything. And it also holds your CPU, which is what I'm installing right here. Your CPU, or your central processing unit, is basically what controls everything in your computer. It's basically the brains of your computer. This is what performs all the actions, all the calculations, and everything in your computer. To install this, you have to be very gentle. It has a bunch of pins on the bottom, and if they get bent, it'll mess them up. You just lower it into place on its slot, and as you see here, I click that little metal bar down that holds your CPU into place. This here is a CPU fan. All of these installed differently. Mine, you have to slide one end of a metal bar over a notch, and then slide the other end over it, and then move a switch, and it holds it down. It's kind of complicated to explain, but not really once you see it. Sometimes they're hard to get down because they aren't sitting just right. They have to be sitting just right on your CPU. In between your CPU and your cooling unit, which is the big gray thing you saw, you want to have some sort of thermal paste to help reduce the heat, and it's usually very messy, so you're going to have to wash your hands. And here I'm plugging my fan power cord into a socket on my motherboard. Generally, most of the sockets on your motherboard are going to be color coded. I went ahead and plugged that one in, and now I am placing my RAM into the slots. Your RAM only goes into the slot one way, so don't be worried about that. And you just slide it in and push it down until it clicks. Your RAM is your random access memory, which allows you to do a lot of the things. It allows you to process more information in your computer. It's pretty simple to install your RAM. The slots are generally in the same place on every motherboard, and you make sure it clicks, and then you're done installing the RAM. The next thing I'm doing is I'm going to be installing the SATA cables from my hard drive to my motherboard. There's a slot on the back of your hard drive. You can either have IDE or SATA cables. IDE are wider. These are SATA cables. They're newer. You slide it into the slot on the back of your hard drive, and then for your hard drive, you want to put it in the number 1 priority slot on your motherboard, because your hard drive is supposed to go in the priority 1 slot, and your DVD drive is generally in the priority 2 or 3 slot. Now I'm installing the SATA cable from my DVD drive to my motherboard in the number 3 slot. And now I'm going to start plugging in connectors onto my motherboard. These, you can usually tell by the number of pins a thing has, where exactly it goes. Those are for my USB ports on the front of my computer, my card readers, my power button. Generally they're color coded, so it makes it a little bit easier, but if you're unsure, get out the instructions for your motherboard and look where each thing goes specifically. Some plugs are also, they're about half the pins that are on an actual thing in your motherboard, so they just go on the top portion of that connector on your motherboard. I've got a few of those in here, but you can't really see exactly what I'm doing. I had a hard time with the connections because my hands are so big, so if you have large hands, you might have trouble getting all your connections done. But generally it's pretty simple. It's just time consuming because you have to find out what goes where and figure out how to get your hands in there to plug it in. So those are all my card readers and my USB ports. And now I'm plugging in the main fan for my computer onto a power connector. This fan is one of the main things help keeps the inside of your computer cool. Without this, your computer will overheat and some of your parts will get broken. They'll get too hot and they'll break. Right now I'm plugging a power cable from my power supply into my DVD drive. These are pretty simple. You can usually tell by the shape of the plug on your device in your computer which plug from your power supply goes into it. I'm plugging in the one for my hard drive now. The one for the DVD drive and the hard drive look exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which cable you use. And here I'm plugging in the main power connection for my motherboard. Usually plugging in all the cords to your motherboard is one of the things that's going to take the longest when you're assembling your computer, just because there's so many of them and you have to figure out where they go. The best thing to do, though, if you're a beginner with putting together computers, is to get out the directions for the motherboard and the power supply if you need it. Right here I'm installing a internet card. I don't use this internet card anymore, but I leave it in my computer. For that one, you just slide it into the slot, and it doesn't have a latch so it just slides in. This is my video card, and as you can see, it's quite large, so sometimes I have trouble getting it around the cables in my computer. You slide this one into a slot also. The slot for the video card is bigger than the slot for the internet card, and that one does click into place. Your video card will click into place. Make sure that latch clicks. Here I'm putting on the back piece of my computer that holds my cards into place. It's just one screw. There I was pushing down the cables to make sure they're out of the way. And here I'm sliding on the back of my computer. It just slides on, and then you screw it in. And those are the basics of how to assemble a computer.